Set in the year 1945, the story revolves around the life of a gangster or mafia family in New York who are immigrants from Italy, specifically from Sicily. The head of the family is Vito Corleone, a don of the criminal family known as the Corleone family. They carry out their actions based on requests from their clients. This is a title of honor that applies in Europe, such as in Italy, Spain, and many other countries. It is specifically for men, while for women, the honorific title is Donna. At the wedding of his only daughter, Don Vito receives several requests from his clients, who happen to be invited to his daughter's party as well. This is significant because Don Vito, who holds the title of Godfather, is still waiting for his youngest son, Michael Corleone, who has not yet arrived. The opening scene of this film serves as a brief introduction to all the members of the Corleone family, and it features many famous quotes from the film. During the family photo session, the Godfather, also known as Don Vito, refuses to take a picture because his family is not yet complete. His youngest son, Michael Corleone, has not arrived. The words that come out of his mouth successfully capture the audience's sympathy. "We will not take a photo without Michael."
We're not taking a picture with Michael.
Now you have an idea of what Don Vito's character is like. Let's introduce the important characters from this close-knit family. His wife is named Carmela Corleone. Honestly, aside from my admiration for the Godfather itself, I am particularly struck by the image of the innocent mother, who seems full of happiness without having to interfere in the dark business dealings of her husband. Vito Corleone's role in this film is not very significant, but the formation of Don Vito's character as a respected and wise man stems from him. Those who have read the novel will know what Carmela's character is like. His eldest son is named Sonny. Unlike his quiet and level-headed father, Sonny is arrogant, hot-tempered, and tends to prefer solving problems with violence. The second son is named Fredo Corleone, or simply Fredo. This character is more gentle and tends to have little influence within the family. The third son, who is also the main character of this film, is Michael Corleone. Michael is a unique character because he chooses to remain ignorant of his father's business. He even prefers to enlist and participate in World War II. Don Vito intentionally does not want to involve his third son in the family business and hopes that Michael will instead enter the world of politics. Michael arrives at this party with his girlfriend, Kay Adams, and introduces her to his family. The only daughter of Vito and Carmela is Connie Corleone. At the beginning of this film, Connie is having a lavish and lively wedding celebration with her partner, who is also Sonny's friend, Carlo Rizzi. Shortly after, a famous singer of that era, Johnny Fontane, arrives. Everyone is intrigued by his presence, as many are fans of his, including the family itself. It turns out that Johnny Fontane is Don Vito's godson, and he has been greatly helped by Don Vito in advancing his career. After singing in front of the bride and all her fans, Johnny is welcomed by Don Vito, who invites him to chat in his office. This is where Johnny asks Don Vito for help to get a role in a famous film project so that his name can rise higher in the entertainment industry. Previously, Johnny had been rejected by the production house handling the film project.
What's his leave off? I'm gonna make him an offer again with you.
Don Vito then orders Tom Hagen to go to Los Angeles to handle Johnny Fontane's issue. Tom Hagen is also Don Vito's godson and has earned the trust to become a consigliere. The consigliere is an important position in the Corleone family business structure, serving as an advisor to the leader and often representing him in important meetings. He can be considered Don Vito's right-hand man. Upon arriving in LA, Tom Hagen finally meets the head of the production house, Jack Woltz. He requests a schedule to give Johnny Fontane a role in the film, but Jack Woltz refuses and explains that Johnny's presence in the entertainment industry at that time has damaged his reputation. That night, Jack Woltz wakes up in his bedroom to find the severed head of a stallion, covered in blood. This is one of the famous methods of problem-solving known as an offer you can't refuse. Ultimately, Johnny Fontane gets his role in the film. Just before Christmas, a crystal flower dealer named Sollozzo offered Don Vito a deal to provide him protection by leveraging Don Vito's strong political connections at that time. Sollozzo was a Turk who owned a crystal flower factory in Sicily and had previously been arrested once in Italy and also in America. He also received support from other mafia families. However, with careful consideration and caution regarding the potential political repercussions of dealing with crystal flower, Don Vito ultimately rejected Sollozzo's offer and refused to get involved in the crystal flower business. Suspecting foul play, Don Vito then sent his enforcer, a hitman named Luca Brasi, to spy on Sollozzo. Luca Brasi had once been hired to kill Don Vito, but instead, Don Vito invited him to Connie's party and even gave him a generous gift, which made Luca respect and admire Don Vito even more. Luca, remembering to wear a bulletproof vest for protection, arrived at a meeting with Bruno Tattaglia and Sollozzo, where he was ultimately killed. Afterward, they kidnapped Tom Hagen. Meanwhile, Don Vito planned to go shopping at the fruit market, but strangely, that night, his personal driver and bodyguard, named Paulie, called in sick.
I'll have to get it myself, Pa. Paulie called in sick this morning.
As a result, Fredo ended up driving Don Vito. Upon arriving at the fruit market, Don Vito was ambushed by a group of armed men who opened fire on him. Fredo, who had no experience with weapons, could only stand in shock and horror as he watched his father collapse after being hit by numerous bullets. The next day, Michael was shocked to see the headline in the newspaper stating that his father was suspected to be dead. He called to confirm the news, which remained unclear as to whether Don Vito had truly passed away. Meanwhile, Sonny received a phone call from Sollozzo, informing him that they had kidnapped Tom Hagen. They did not plan to kill him. Instead, they wanted Sonny to consider a deal that would involve Tom Hagen. Sollozzo informed Tom to reconsider the previous business offer, as Sonny was actually interested in Sollozzo's proposal, believing that Don Vito was dead. Therefore, he asked Tom Hagen to persuade Sonny. Tom Hagen was released shortly afterward, but Sollozzo then received news that Don Vito was, in fact, still alive. This news stressed him out and made it hard for him to believe how Don Vito could have survived such a barrage of gunfire. At a Corleone family meeting, Sonny received a package containing a bulletproof vest, along with 2 dead fish, indicating that Luca Brasi was now dead and rotting, just like the fish. For those who may not know, the significance of the fish being sent to Sonny relates back to where Luca Brasi was killed, likely at the bar where he met with Bruno Tattaglia and Sollozzo. The symbol of the fish was clearly displayed on the glass wall of that restaurant or bar. Meanwhile, Paulie returned to work after his sick leave, but his behavior raised suspicions of acting. Sonny ordered Clemenza to deal with him, as he believed Paulie was involved in the conspiracy to betray and attempt to kill Don Vito.
Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
Next, Michael met with Kay Adams and told her to stay away for a while, as he did not want her to be involved in his family's problems. They eventually parted ways. Michael then visited his father in the hospital. Upon arriving, he noticed something strange. There were no guards or hospital staff present. Michael suspected an assassination attempt on Don Vito, so he asked a nurse for help in moving his father to another room. He then encountered a baker named Enzo, who wanted to visit Vito, but Michael instructed him to wait outside, as danger could come at any moment. Before we continue, we find a name on the wall of this room: Robert O. Lowry. He was a firefighter who worked in New York in 1946 and received much praise for capturing a man responsible for 30 acts of arson and robbery. He also became a hero for the black community due to his efforts to include black individuals in the firefighting unit in America during that era. Returning to the film, Michael took advantage of the dark night to deceive Sollozzo's men and enter the hospital. He disguised Enzo to look like a vigilant bodyguard with a weapon. The henchman eventually left after seeing Enzo and Michael standing in front of the hospital. Shortly after, police officers led by McCluskey arrived. Michael accused McCluskey of being paid off by Sollozzo, and he was punched, leaving a mark on his face. Clemenza and Tom Hagen arrived to rescue Michael. This marked the beginning of Michael's transformation from a good kid to a brutal figure. The next morning, Michael received news that Sonny had killed Bruno due to the hospital incident. Michael then devised a plan to kill Sollozzo and McCluskey by accepting their invitation and pretending to resolve their conflict. This was a risky assassination attempt that could jeopardize the credibility of Don Vito's family. But Michael had a brilliant idea to arrange their meeting. He instructed Clemenza to hide a gun at the meeting location and to prepare for the news of McCluskey's murder, who was, after all, a police officer and had indeed been paid by Sollozzo to be his personal bodyguard. Michael met with them at a restaurant, arriving unarmed. After chatting for a moment, he asked to use the restroom, where he retrieved a gun that Clemenza had hidden for him. Michael then killed Sollozzo and McCluskey in an act of revenge. Following the murders of Sollozzo and McCluskey, a war broke out among the Mafia bosses. This was depicted through media coverage, which even included Don Vito, who had returned home, becoming a subject of news. Sonny and Tom Hagen explained what had been happening, mentioning that they had sent Fredo to Las Vegas, and Hagen informed Don Vito that Michael was in hiding in Sicily. In Sicily, Michael met a woman who captured his heart. Her name was Apollonia. To win her over, Michael employed tactics familiar to him from his father, known as an offer you can't refuse. He negotiated with Apollonia, and eventually, he was able to marry her. Meanwhile, Sonny visited his sister Connie, who was pregnant, and noticed that her face was bruised. Naturally, Sonny was furious, but Connie insisted that he not hurt Carlo, her husband, because he was the one at fault. Sonny then found Carlo on the street and confronted him publicly. He warned Carlo that if he hurt Connie again, Sonny would not hesitate to kill him.
My sister again, I'll kill you.
Unfortunately, the situation escalated when Connie, after cooking dinner, received a phone call from a woman who intended to cancel her plans with Carlo. Connie, who shared her brother's fiery temperament, went into a rage, smashing household items. Carlo, enraged, insulted and hit Connie. When Sonny learned of this, he rushed to find Carlo. However, upon arriving at the toll booth, Sonny was ambushed by a group of men who shot him with a machine gun, resulting in a gruesome death. At this point, viewers likely assumed that the conflict among the Mafia would intensify. With a heavy heart, Tom Hagen delivered the bad news to Don Vito. Surprisingly, instead of seeking revenge for Sonny's death, Don Vito decided that there would be no investigation and no retaliation. He wanted a meeting with all the heads of the 5 Mafia families. Don Vito then met with Bonacera, who was Carmela's godson. Earlier in the film, Bonacera had come to Don Vito seeking justice for the crime committed against his daughter by her boyfriend, offering to pay Don Vito anything. At that time, Don Vito had not asked for anything, but now he was requesting a favor: to help arrange Sonny's funeral so that he could be buried with dignity. This moment became one of the most memorable scenes, revealing Don Vito's loving nature as he lamented, "They killed my son," while he sobbed. Meanwhile, Michael, who was still in Sicily, received the bad news. He was advised to change locations immediately. Michael instructed one of his bodyguards to prepare a car, and as he was getting ready to leave, Apollonia, his wife, got into the car and intended to drive. Tragically, Apollonia was killed. It turned out that one of his bodyguards had betrayed him and fled. This moment marked the birth of a new Michael, one who was fundamentally different from before, shaped by profound losses. At a meeting of the Mafia family heads, arranged with the help of Don Barzini, Don Vito decided to change his stance on the crystal flower business, acknowledging that all the problems had stemmed from his earlier rejection of Sollozzo's offer. They all agreed that the crystal flower business could proceed but must be controlled, ensuring that crystal flower would not be made available to children. Notably, Don Vito convinced the Tattaglia family not to hold grudges over the deaths of their children. In the beginning, Bruno Tattaglia had been killed by Sonny, and now Sonny had also fallen victim to the ongoing cycle of revenge. Once again, a powerful quote emerged from Don Vito: "Revenge will not bring my son or your son back."
Is vengeance gonna bring your son back to you? And my boy to me? I forgot the vengeance of my son.
Don Vito emphasized his goal of achieving peace among all the Mafia families so that Michael could safely return to America. He also realized that the mastermind behind Sonny's death was not the Tattaglias, but Barzini.
But I didn't know until this day that it was Barzini all along.
Michael eventually returned to America, married Kay, and had 2 children. With Vito now ill and Fredo lacking strength, Michael became the only one capable of succeeding his father in the family business. He then restructured the Corleone family organization, making the surprising decision to choose Carlo, who had previously been Tom Hagen's right-hand man, as his new enforcer. For his advisor, Michael no longer needed Tom Hagen. Instead, he appointed his father, Vito, to be his advisor. Michael insisted that Tom Hagen move to Las Vegas, a decision that was approved by Don Vito. In Las Vegas, Michael met with Mo Green, a casino owner where his brother Fredo and Johnny Fontaine worked. Michael planned to forcefully buy and take over Mo Green's casino hotel. This was part of his strategy to relocate the Corleone family to Nevada. After a heated debate, Mo Green inadvertently mentioned his connection to Don Barzini, implying that Barzini could help him keep his casino hotel. Even more shocking was that Michael discovered that his brother Fredo was siding with another family rather than his own. In his final moments with his father, Vito advised Michael to be cautious of anyone arranging a meeting with Barzini, as that person was a traitor. In 1955, Vito passed away, a moment many considered the most memorable and heartbreaking for the audience, as they witnessed Vito Corleone's love for his family. He died while playing with his grandchild. During Vito Corleone's funeral, one of the Corleone family members planned to arrange a meeting with Barzini, which came as a huge surprise because no one expected that person to be Tessio, one of the captains in the Corleone family who had been very close to Vito. The meeting was scheduled to coincide with Connie's child's baptism, where Michael agreed to be the godfather. On the day of the baptism, as Michael stood at the altar to become his nephew's godfather, his hitmen were simultaneously executing all the Mafia bosses in New York City and New Jersey who were enemies of the Corleone family. Meanwhile, Michael confronted Carlo and revealed his secret. Carlo had been paid by Barzini to lure Sonny out by hurting Connie, forcing him to confess under an offer he couldn't refuse. Carlo was then killed in the car. Connie, in a fit of hysteria, rushed to Michael, accusing him of killing Carlo. She also informed Kay that Michael had ordered his men to carry out the murders of the Mafia leaders. At that moment, Kay felt somewhat relieved when Michael denied her accusations. However, when the family members arrived, Kay overheard them calling Michael Don Corleone, and she witnessed the police kissing Michael's hand, who had now become the new Don Michael Corleone. The door to the room then closed. And the movie ends. 2 years after the release of its first film in 1974, The Godfather Part II once again captured attention. This film, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, continued the legacy of its predecessor, which featured Marlon Brando as Vito Corleone. Brando received numerous awards at various events, including an Oscar. The second film also did not disappoint, garnering many accolades, including Oscars during its era, although Al Pacino once again ended up with just a nomination at that event. Interestingly, it was the actor portraying Vito Corleone who won the award for Best Supporting Actor. In this second film, Vito Corleone is brilliantly portrayed by Robert De Niro, matching the caliber of Marlon Brando. Al Pacino reprises his role as Michael Corleone, along with the entire cast from the first film. The plot of the film moves back and forth in time, and this is The Godfather II. The film begins with a flashback to the childhood of Vito Corleone, set in 1901. A 9-year-old boy named Vito Andolini witnesses his family being murdered in Corleone, Sicily, Italy. It starts with his father being killed after insulting the local mafia boss, Don Ciccio. Then, his mother attempts to avenge his father's death and tries to save Vito Andolini. Vito then escapes and arrives at the port, where he boards a ship heading to New York City. On this ship, Vito Andolini is registered as a passenger under the name Vito Corleone, and he arrives at Ellis Island, United States.
Vito Corleone.
An interesting fact is that the atmosphere among the passengers at this port resembles the current situation, where very strict health protocols are in place, seemingly due to a chickenpox epidemic in the area in 1958. Here, we can see the journey of Don Corleone's new heir, Michael Corleone. They have all settled in Nevada, and his mission from the first film has been accomplished. Even Fredo has now become the owner of a casino in Las Vegas, which was previously controlled by Mo Green. Connie, his sister, has also moved on from her husband's death and now has a new partner, while their mother remains a loving figure for the family. Michael holds a First Communion party for his son at Lake Tahoe. First Communion is a very important tradition in the Catholic Church, a ritual performed by Catholic children who have reached a certain age, usually around 7 to 8 years, to receive their First Communion. Communion involves receiving bread and wine that have been consecrated as the body and blood of Christ. During the party, Michael Corleone conducts a series of business meetings, as he has now become the new Don Corleone. Senator Geary meets with him to negotiate, offering Michael a deal to pay a higher tax on the casino trophy gala that he will take over. The reason is simple. This senator dislikes Italian immigrants like the Corleone family, who appear to be full of pretense. There is an interesting quote from Michael during this conversation when he responds to Senator Geary's dislike for him. Michael says, "We are both part of the same pretense, but never think the same of my family.
We're both part of the same hypocrisy.
Michael refuses to pay the exorbitant casino tax, which is 150 times the normal tax rate. This should be considered an important opening scene that will determine the film's ending. Problems begin to arise when his sister Connie approaches Michael for money to fund her trip to Europe with her new boyfriend, Merle Johnson, whom Michael does not like. Michael offers his sister to stay with her children and family and cancel her wedding plans with Merle, but unfortunately, Connie does not listen.
You're not my father!
What do you come to me for?
Because I need money.
Another issue arises when Frito's wife acts like a drunken and cheap woman, insulting Frito's own family. Next, Frank Pentangeli, someone who has always been loyal to the Corleone family, comes to the first communion party of Anthony, the son of Don Michael Corleone. He is disappointed with Michael for refusing to help against the Rosado brothers, who work for Michael's business associate, Hyman Roth. Don Michael does not want his business to be damaged by Hyman Roth. Frank Pentangeli warns Don Michael that Hyman Roth is a business associate who was liked and respected by the late Vito Corleone, but Don Vito Corleone never trusted Hyman Roth. That night, as Michael is about to rest in his room, he is suddenly attacked by a barrage of gunfire from outside, which nearly kills him and his wife, Kay. Michael orders his men to search the house complex for the assailants and capture them alive to find out who is behind the attack. Unfortunately, they find that the assailant is dead, and Michael decides to leave Nevada for New York City. In 1917, Vito Corleone now resides in New York City. He has a wife who has given birth to their first son, Santino Sonny Corleone. Vito and his friend attend an Italian theatrical performance and meet a local Don named Don Fanucci, who is feared by the people as the leader of the Mafia and known as the Black Hand. Don Fanucci enjoys extorting Italian immigrants, including the store owned by his friend's father, which is also where Vito Corleone works. That night, Vito is asked by his neighbor to hide some items, which turn out to be several firearms. The next day, Vito loses his job at the store because Don Fanucci forces his friend's father to hire his nephew to work there. With great integrity, Vito convinces his boss to comply with Fanucci's request, even willing to be fired. From a young age, Vito's character is already evident. On his way, Vito meets someone who turns out to be his neighbor, Clemenza, who intends to give Vito a gift for helping him hide his weapons. They both go to a house and roll up a luxurious carpet from there. Initially, it seems they are taking it to the laundry, but it is actually a gift for Vito. However, Vito does not realize that he has unwittingly participated in a theft. Meanwhile, Michael Corleone arrives in Miami and meets his business associate, Hyman Roth. Michael suspects that Hyman Roth is involved in a plot to kill him. He pretends to convince Hyman Roth that he is still his business partner. Michael informs Hyman Roth that Frank Pentangeli has asked him to eliminate the Rosado brothers, but he refuses, as it could jeopardize his future business. Do you remember Vito Corleone's message from the first film? Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
In New York City, Michael then meets Frank Pentangeli, who is now living in the former Corleone family home. Michael asks him to resolve the issue with the Rosado brothers because he knows that Hyman Roth has been trying to kill him. Michael Corleone advises Pentangeli to maintain a good relationship with Hyman Roth, following his father Vito Corleone's advice. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Frank must deal with the Rosado brothers, while Michael Corleone seeks to uncover the true traitor within his family. At the Corleone family home, Fredo, who is asleep, receives a phone call from someone named Johnny Ola. Johnny Ola is Hyman Roth's right-hand man, marking the beginning of Roth's suspicious actions involving Fredo. Back in New York City, Frank Pentangeli goes to confront the Rosado brothers. Unfortunately, the Rosado brothers act quickly and attempt to kill Frank Pentangeli. Fortunately, a police officer arrives at the scene, and Frank Pentangeli manages to escape. In Las Vegas, Tom Hagen visits a casino hotel with Fredo. He meets Senator Geary, who is caught in a situation where the prostitute he was with has been gruesomely murdered. Tom Hagen tries to reassure the senator not to panic and that they will resolve the incident. Do you remember the senator's offer at the beginning of the film? This is the offer you can't refuse that Tom Hagen has arranged. So, don't mess with the Corleone family. Hyman Roth, Michael Corleone, and several of their business associates then travel to Havana, Cuba, to attend a meeting discussing the future business prospects in Cuba under the leadership of Fulgencio Batista. After the meeting, Michael's car is halted due to an arrest of rebels by the authorities. At that moment, right before their eyes, a rebel commits suicide by bombing as a form of resistance, part of the ongoing Cuban Revolution. Observing the state of the Cuban Revolution, Michael reconsiders their business, fearing that the government may fall. Still in Havana, Fredo arrives with a bag containing $2 million as a gift for the president. Michael casually mentions his acquaintances in Cuba, Hyman Roth and Johnny Ola. Fredo immediately appears nervous when Michael asks if he knows those two names. Fredo claims he does not know them at all, even though just a few nights ago, he received a call from someone named Johnny Ola. Remember that? Michael also assigns Fredo to welcome Senator Geary, who will arrive the next day, and to take him around Havana. Michael requests protection from a suspected assassination attempt that may occur after New Year's Eve during the New Year's celebration at the presidential palace. Fredo accidentally lets slip in the crowd that he knows Hyman Roth's right-hand man, Johnny Ola. At that moment, Michael realizes that Fredo is the traitor within his family. That same night, Michael orders his bodyguard to kill Johnny Ola. After successfully completing this first mission, Michael's bodyguard heads to the intensive care unit to kill Hyman Roth. However, before he can complete his task, he is caught by the police and shot dead. Still at the presidential palace, a group of soldiers meets with the president. New Year's Eve arrives, and everyone exchanges greetings, including Michael, who congratulates Fredo and tells him to hurry to the plane that will take them to Miami. With a heavy heart, Michael tells his brother that this moment is one of deep pain and memorable significance. That same night, President Batista announced his resignation, marking a complete victory for the Cuban revolutionary fighters. The uprising was inevitable, and amidst the chaos, Fredo fled, leaving Michael behind. Although Michael tried to reassure him, Hyman Roth, who was suffering from a stroke, was also rushed back to the United States. Upon arriving home, Tom Hagen informed Michael that his wife, Kay, had suffered a miscarriage. Looking back at the past, Vito Corleone now had two more sons after Santino, Fredo and Michael. Fredo was born in poor health, suffering from pneumonia. Throughout Vito's criminal journey with his associates, Clemenza and Tessio, they caught the attention of Fanucci, who extorted them. Clemenza and Salvatore Tessio chose to avoid trouble with Fanucci by meeting his payment demands, but Vito was more insistent that he could convince Fanucci to accept the smaller payment. You understand how he did that, right? This is where the phrase, "an offer he can't refuse," first emerged. During the Italian ethnic festival, Festa, Vito followed Fanucci to his apartment. Once there, Vito shot Fanucci dead. He destroyed the gun used and covered up the evidence. He returned home to reunite with his family. Back to Michael, he returned to his home in Nevada, where he found Kay busy sewing. He then confided in his mother about Kay's miscarriage and how his father had reacted to family losses. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the Senate Committee on Crime was conducting an investigation into the Corleone family. Returning to Vito Corleone, he had now become a respected figure in his community. Vito was approached by a widow who had been displaced from her home for trivial reasons. The widow asked Vito to speak to her landlord. Vito met with the landlord, named Roberto, and requested that he return the house to the widow. Vito even secretly paid her rent for 6 months. Shortly after, Roberto came to Vito's office and returned the money he had received earlier, now intimidated and fearful because he realized he was facing a Don Vito Corleone. Roberto also promised to lower the rent for the widow. Vito and his friends, Clemenza and Tessio, now had a new business, the olive oil Genco importing company. During the Senate investigation into the Corleone family, Frank Pentangeli, having survived a previous assassination attempt by the Rosado brothers, agreed to testify against Michael in court. Frank believed he had been betrayed in the assassination attempt against him, and he was convinced that Michael was behind it. He was now under tight security as a form of witness protection. Back in Nevada, Michael finally reunited with Fredo. Fredo expressed his frustration at being the neglected son of Vito. He also admitted to helping Hyman Roth and expected payment from him. Fredo revealed a court secret. The Senate lawyer was actually a subordinate of Hyman Roth. Michael rejected and denied any blood ties with Fredo, but he still ordered one of his bodyguards to ensure Fredo's safety while their mother was still alive. During the Corleone family court proceedings, Michael could not meet with Frank Pentangeli, who was under strict guard, to explain the true events and defend Michael. However, Tom Hagen cleverly brought in Pentangeli's brother from Sicily to the hearing, which made Frank Pentangeli anxious. Eventually, he reversed his previous testimony in court and began to defend the Corleone family again. The hearing became chaotic and was subsequently adjourned. At the hotel, Kay met with her husband, Michael, and revealed that she had not actually miscarried. Instead, she had intentionally had an abortion. She expressed her desire to stop having children with Michael, whom she considered a brutal, savage family. Michael became enraged, ultimately hitting Kay and throwing her out, reclaiming custody of their children. Returning to Vito, along with all the family members, they went back to their hometown in Sicily. For the first time, he and his business associate, Tomasino, visited the estate of Don Ciccio, seeking his blessing to start their olive oil business. Do you remember Don Ciccio? He was the one who killed Vito's parents. After revealing his father's name, Antonio Andolini, Vito finally completed his childhood revenge by killing Ciccio. However, as they attempted to escape, Tomasino was shot in the leg and suffered permanent disability. The next scene shows the Corleone family's mourning atmosphere, where Michael's mother has now passed away. Guests arrive to pay their last respects, including Connie and Fredo. Fredo asks Hagen to arrange a meeting with Michael, but Hagen assures him that it will never happen because Michael is waiting for him to leave before he will see their mother's body. Connie meets Michael and urges him to forgive Fredo. Connie also promises to take care of herself and the children. Michael then meets and forgives Fredo. In the print media, Roth's story became a headline, as his request for asylum was denied, and he was also refused entry into Israel. Hyman Roth was forced to return to the United States due to his heart attack. He was now diagnosed with a limited life expectancy. A disagreement arose between Consigliere Tom Hagen and Michael regarding the plan to assassinate Hyman Roth. Michael then ordered one of his loyal bodyguards, named Rocco Lampuan, to kill Roth, while Tom Hagen's loyalty was questioned by Michael.
You gonna come along with me in these things I have to do, or what? Because if not, you can take your wife, your family, and your mistress. Move them all to Las Vegas.
Why do you hurt me, Michael? I've always been loyal to you. I mean, what is this?
Tom Hagen then met with Pentangeli at the Witness Protection Complex. During their conversation, Frank Pentangeli likened the Corleone family to the Roman Empire, which Hagen agreed with, but he reminded Pentangeli that this was in the past. Hagen also warned Pentangeli about the story of a failed conspiracy against the Roman emperor, which often ended with the conspirators taking their own lives. Hagen assured Pentangeli that his family would be taken care of by Michael's men. Meanwhile, Michael's men began their mission, disguising themselves as journalists at Miami airport to interview Hyman Roth, who had just arrived. They then shot Hyman Roth dead. Unfortunately, local police reacted quickly and shot the assailants, killing them. At the Witness Protection Complex, Frank Pentangeli was found dead, having committed suicide by biting his own wrist. Under Michael's orders, Alneri also killed Fredo at the lake. The final scene returns to the past when all of Don Vito Corleone's children have grown up. They gather at the dining table to surprise their father, Don Vito Corleone, on his birthday. There are Santino, also known as Sonny, Fredo, Connie, and of course, Michael, along with Tom Hagen. Michael informs his brothers that, in reaction to the attack on Pearl Harbor, he has decided to leave college and enlist in the U.S. Marine Corps. This reckless decision angers Sonny, and Hagen is also skeptical.
Come on, Mikey, he has high hopes for you.
Talk to my father about my future.
Pop had to pull a lot of strings to get your deferment. Your father has plans for you. Now, many times, he and I have talked about your future.
While Fredo is the only brother who supports his decision. When Vito arrives, they all go to greet their father, except for Michael, who remains alone at the dining table. At the end of the film, Michael is also seen sitting alone by the lake at the family home complex. This film can be considered one of the best films ever made, even though we know that the third film's rating is lower than that of its two predecessors. However, that does not mean this film is not worth watching. Not far from the previous ones, this film still focuses on the story of the Corleone Mafia family business, which continues into the next generation. This is the Godfather Part III. The film begins in 1979, when Michael Corleone, the Godfather, who is now almost 60 years old, sends a message to his two children, Anthony Corleone and Mary Corleone, who live with their mother, Kay Adams. Michael and Kay had separated in 1959. His adopted brother, Tom Hagen, has now passed away. The Corleone compound by the lake has been abandoned and is now in ruins. Michael informs his children that he has moved to New York, hoping that Anthony and Mary will come to his honorary ceremony, which will be held by the Pope at the old St. Patrick's Cathedral. Michael also hopes that his children can persuade their mother, Kay, who has remarried, to come with them to the family gathering in New York. Michael uses his great wealth and power to restore his dignity and reputation in the public eye. We know that his conquests in The Godfather Part II successfully expanded his business and made him extremely wealthy. However, now the criminal and violent elements of the Corleone family, which Michael has mostly abandoned, are no longer part of his gangster style. Michael has even embraced American corporations, which are now more tolerant of him, in an effort to free himself from a past filled with dirty business and bloodshed. Michael establishes a charitable foundation named the Vito Corleone Foundation in memory of his father. Back at the church, the ceremony begins. Michael is appointed commander of the Order of St. Sebastian by Bishop Gilday. Anthony and Mary finally attend the event. Connie Corleone is also present, along with Michael's lawyer, B.J. Harrison. Apparently, Michael's enforcer, Joey Zasa, is also there, accompanied by his personal bodyguard, Anthony Squiliaro. They are watched over by Michael's personal bodyguard, Alneri, who was once the chief of police for the Corleone family. After the ceremony, they celebrate at the Corleone family residence, which is also attended by Michael's old friend and a mafia boss in America, Don Altobello. At that time, there is an uninvited man named Vincent Mancini. Vincent Mancini is the illegitimate son of Santino Sonny Corleone, Michael's older brother, together with Lucy Mancini. Vincent, who is seen sitting alone, is approached by Mary. The last time they met, Mary was only 8 years old, while Vincent was 15. It turns out that since then, Vincent has fallen in love with his own cousin. He decides to find out that Mary is actually the daughter of his uncle, Michael Corleone, who at that time leads the Vito Corleone Foundation and donates $100 million to the Vatican Church. This donation was given to Bishop Gilday and used to help the poor in Sicily. It is worth noting that the city of Sicily, located in the province of Palermo, is the birthplace of Vito Corleone, Michael's father. Meanwhile, Michael finally meets Kay, who is now his ex-wife. She then visits Anthony to urge him to continue his law studies. However, Anthony refuses and instead wants to pursue opera school to realize his own dream of becoming an opera singer. After being persuaded by Kay, Michael, who initially strongly opposed the idea, finally agrees to let Anthony follow his dream. Moreover, Kay informs Michael that Anthony already knows that his father had killed his own brother, Fredo Corleone. Michael himself actually regrets this act, even though it was necessary to protect his family from Fredo's betrayal. Not long after, Don Altobello visits Michael to congratulate him. Altobello is also the godfather of Connie Corleone and has contributed $1 million to Sicily. Shortly after, Joey Zasa meets Michael to inform him that he has a small problem with Sonny's son, Vincent Mancini, who once worked for him but now hates him. Vincent, who also intends to meet Michael, then bites Joey Zasa's ear. Vincent declares his willingness to serve Michael. Michael agrees to accept him on the condition that Vincent must prove his loyalty and dedication to Michael Corleone. The party continues with a family photo session. Michael decides to call Vincent Mancini to join the main Corleone family. The party ends with a dance performance by Michael and Mary. That night, two men break into Vincent's apartment after Vincent spends the evening with a female journalist named Grace Hamilton, played by Bridget Fonda, whom he picked up at the party. Fortunately, Vincent realizes what is happening and manages to kill both intruders after discovering that they are hitmen hired by Zasa.
Hey, stop it! Take a good look at this guy. Come on, tell me, who sent you?
Joey Zasa. No!
Michael, upon learning of the incident, is furious because Vincent should not have killed them. He should have reported it to the police instead. Connie defends Vincent, considering his actions as a form of protection for his own safety. Vincent asks Michael to give the order to kill Joey Zasa, But Michael thinks it is unnecessary because Joey Zasa is not a threat. Not long after, Archbishop Gilday meets Michael to ask for help. He explains that he was previously trusted by Rome to manage the finances of the Vatican Bank, but was betrayed by his own colleagues, resulting in a deficit of hundreds of millions of dollars. Hearing this, Michael offers assistance with a capital injection of $509 million, on the condition that 25% of the Vatican's shares in the Immobiliare company will become the property of the Corleone company. Immobiliare is a real estate company. It should be noted that Michael only agrees to cooperate with legal companies. He has already sold all casino assets and businesses related to gambling and illegal goods. They agree with Michael and give him $600 million as a condition.
600 million.
While in the Vatican, Michael finally learns that some influential parties actually oppose the agreement for various reasons, one of which is the dark criminal history that has tarnished the Corleone name. Additionally, the health of Pope Paul VI is deteriorating. Ratifying the agreement turns out to be more complicated than Michael had imagined. Meanwhile, Don Altobello meets Michael and conveys that the Mafia, who have been longtime Corleone partners, are grateful for the money they have earned together over 20 years. Although Michael is no longer involved with the Mafia, they decide to share shares in Immobiliare to become a family again. Michael rejects this, stating that he wants Immobiliare to be a legitimate company, free from Mafia politics. Michael plans to hold a meeting in the city of Atlantis with them to avoid misunderstandings in the Vatican. Pope Paul VI, who is seriously ill, cancels his attendance at the meeting with Immobiliare's top officials. The meeting is led by Archbishop Gilday and attended by Michael, accompanied by Vincent and Harrison. Also present is the founder and chairman of the Immobiliare board, who delivers a vote of no confidence from the shareholders in New York. Harrison explains that the Vatican has approved Michael to control the board of Immobiliare, but the board members refuse because, according to them, the Vatican's approval must be carried out there and ratified by the Pope. However, since the Pope is seriously ill, the approval of Michael must be postponed.
This is a brief delay. Nothing more.
When the meeting ended, Lucchese told Michael that, basically, they agreed to give Michael full control over Immobiliare. However, this was on the condition that Michael would align with their interests. Eventually, Michael agreed to their offer, although he actually wanted the company to operate healthily, without any manipulation elsewhere. Meanwhile, Mary and Vincent met, where Mary expressed a deeper curiosity about Vincent's father, Sonny Corleone. Vincent had apparently never met his father because Sonny died while Vincent was still in the womb. Vincent also tried to comfort and reassure Mary regarding her father, Michael, who was known to have killed their uncle, Fredo. Vincent had to lie, saying that this was not true, until Mary felt somewhat at ease. Not long after, Michael and Vincent arrived by helicopter at a meeting with the Mafia families, commonly called the Don's families, at Palazzo Atlantic City, New Jersey. At the meeting, Michael received high praise after successfully managing the casinos and making them all extremely wealthy. Michael then prepared a small surprise for them, a check containing millions of dollars, which delighted everyone.
$50 million. Grazie. Oh, wonderful. Michael, this is really generous.
Unfortunately, Joey Zasa was left out. Zasa felt humiliated in front of the other mafias and immediately left the place.
No, Joey.
Don Altobello followed him to persuade him to return. After Zasa left, suddenly a helicopter opened fire on them, killing the mafias present except for Michael, Vincent, and Al Neri, who survived the assassination attempt. Upon arriving home, Michael praised Vincent for saving him, while Al Neri suspected that Zasa was behind the attempt to kill them all. Michael himself was unsure because he knew Zasa did not have the guts without the backing of a powerful figure. Instead, Michael suspected Altobello, who also survived the shooting and decided to retire from the Mafia world and live in Sicily. After that, Michael suffered a stroke due to diabetes. He was delirious, calling out the name of his brother Fredo, whom he had killed 20 years earlier. Michael was hospitalized in a coma. Meanwhile, Harrison reminded Archbishop Gilday that if Michael were to die, the ownership of Immobiliare would still proceed, and an agreement should be reached as soon as possible. After Harrison left, Frederick Kainsick, an accountant at the Vatican Bank, warned Archbishop Gilday that all their plans would be exposed if Michael died. Gilday then decided to postpone the agreement for the time being. Elsewhere, inside the church, Vincent was ordered by Connie and Al Neri to kill Joey Zassa without Michael's knowledge. Here, Connie had unofficially become Michael's consigliere because she basically disliked Zassa. Thus, Vincent gladly agreed, with help from some of his associates. At the hospital, Michael finally woke up from his coma and was visited by Kay, who thanked him for granting Anthony's wish to continue his music career. Kay also brought good news that Anthony would make his debut at an opera performance in Sicily. Michael happily agreed to attend the event. Apparently, Anthony and Mary also came to visit their father. Mary then visited Vincent, where they shared a passionate embrace, losing control, and indulged in worldly pleasure. The next day, during a street celebration, Vincent and his gang killed Zassa's bodyguards. While Vincent disguised himself as a police officer and eventually killed Zassa himself. Michael, still hospitalized, eventually learned about Zassa's murder and cursed Vincent. Vincent insisted that he had permission and orders from Al Neri and Connie. Michael asserted that all orders came only from him. He also insisted that Vincent end his relationship with Mary because Vincent's involvement in the family could endanger Mary's life, his daughter. The following day, Altobello visited Michael and persuaded him to retire from all his businesses, including Immobiliare, as it would affect his health. However, Michael refused because he felt he was still capable of doing everything as a godfather. They agreed to meet again in Sicily. Finally, the Corleone family entourage arrived in Sicily, the location of Anthony's opera debut. There, he was welcomed by his father's old friend, Tomasino. On this occasion, Michael sought to find out everything about Don Altobello from Don Tomasino, who was suspected to be the mastermind behind the Atlantic City massacre. Tomasino said that only Lucchese had the guts to carry out the slaughter. Michael and Harrison realized that Archbishop Gilday and the Vatican Bank, which were close to Lucchese, were a big problem for them. Tomasino then suggested that Michael meet Cardinal Lamberto, an honest cardinal who might be able to help Michael. Not long after, Michael held a celebration event for his son Anthony's early career at the Opera Cavalleria Rusticana. During the event, Anthony impressed his father by singing his favorite song, which made Michael recall the beautiful memories he shared with his first wife, Apollonia Cara. He then told this story to his two children, explaining that Apollonia died after her trusted bodyguard betrayed her by planting a bomb in her car. Shortly after, Mary left her father in anger when Michael told her to stay away from Vincent. Meanwhile, to gather more information, Michael ordered Vincent to pretend to betray him and work for Don Altobello, claiming that Michael's disapproval of his relationship with Mary was the reason for Vincent's betrayal. Altobello accepted him and introduced him to Lucchese in the Vatican. Michael met Cardinal Lamberto and made a confession, admitting that he had killed his own brother, Fredo. Lamberto comforted Michael by saying that his sin could still be redeemed. Meanwhile, Altobello visited an old friend, a hitman named Mosca from Monteleper, and ordered him to kill Michael. Elsewhere, Michael and Mary picked up Kay, who had finally arrived in Sicily. Michael then took Kay on a tour around Sicily, reminiscing about their memories together and about his father, Vito Corleone, when he was still alive. Vincent, having learned that Michael was going to be killed, ordered his bodyguards to ensure Michael's safety. Mosca, disguised as a priest, carried out his mission to kill Michael. On the way, Tomasino offered them a ride. After discovering that the priest was actually Mosca, Tomasino was killed. Michael, who had returned to Tomasino's residence, was greeted by his former bodyguard, Kahlo, who had now become Don Tomasino's bodyguard. Kahlo informed Michael, who was with Kay at the time, that Tomasino was dead and that he would await Michael's orders for revenge. However, Michael did not give any orders. In the Vatican, Pope Paul VI, who had passed away, was succeeded by Lamberto, who was then called John Paul I. During his leadership, Lamberto investigated the Vatican Bank scandal, where Frederick Kainsick, whose true nature had been exposed, was declared missing, causing Archbishop Gilday to become angry and panicked. On the day of Tomasino's funeral, Vincent reported to Michael that the massacre had been carried out by Lucchese, who was working with Alto Bello and Archbishop Gilday. They had hired a hitman named Mosca to kill Michael. Michael finally agreed to Vincent's request to kill them, on the condition that Vincent must leave Mary forever for her safety. Michael then handed over his power to Vincent Mancini, witnessed by Connie Corleone, Alneri, and Kahlo, who called Vincent Don Vincent Corleone. The time came for Anthony's performance at the Opera Cavalleria Rusticana, attended by many spectators, including Don Alto Bello, who coincidentally was celebrating his birthday that day. Connie Corleone, who was also his goddaughter, gave him a gift, a poisoned cannoli intended to kill Alto Bello. Meanwhile, Michael received news from Harrison that Pope Lamberto had approved the immobilier deal. Michael, however, worried about Lamberto's safety, as he was surrounded by dangerous people. At the same time, Vincent decided to end his relationship with Mary and asked her to accept someone else. The opera performance began. Alto Bello enjoyed the poisoned food given by Connie, while Vincent's bodyguards, the twins, watched over Mosca's presence. Vincent also ordered Alneri to take a train to the Vatican in Rome to kill Archbishop Gilday. Additionally, he ordered Kahlo to kill Lucchese and his men, as well as to kill Koenig. Mosca, intending to shoot Michael, was caught by the twins. Mosca killed them but lost his target, who had changed seats. Michael met Vincent, who informed him that Pope Lamberto was in danger and that they did not have enough time to save him. Elsewhere, Vincent's men succeeded in killing Koenig with a pillow and then hanged him to make it look like a suicide. In the Vatican, it turned out that Archbishop Gilday had poisoned Pope Lamberto, causing the Pope to breathe his last breath peacefully. Meanwhile, Don Alto Bello died from poisoning. Elsewhere, Alneri killed Archbishop Gilday, while Kahlo succeeded in killing Lucchese by stabbing him with his own glasses. After the opera ended successfully, Michael and his family celebrated Anthony's success. However, Mary was angry at her father for forbidding her relationship with Vincent. At that moment, Mosca shot Michael, wounding him. Unfortunately, Mary was also hit in the chest and died on the spot. Dad? Immediately, Vincent retaliated by killing Mosca, and Michael became hysterical upon seeing Mary's body. His hysteria was as intense as when he lost Apollonia. No! Oh God, no, please! Everyone present was overwhelmed with grief. The film finally ends by showing an old and broken-spirited Michael sitting on the front porch of Tomasino's Villa Sicilia. Don Michael then breathed his last breath. The success of his previous two films, which were globally acclaimed, did not carry over to this third film, even though it was still directed by the same mind and hand, Francis Ford Coppola, with Mario Puzo, the original author of the novel, involved. The Godfather Part III received polarized reviews, ranging from criticism of its narrative, which some viewers found boring, to the hairstyle of Michael Corleone, played by Al Pacino, which was very far from the iconic Godfather image. The main issue with the acting actually lay with Sofia Coppola, who portrayed the character Mary in this film. Sofia was considered unprepared and inexperienced as an actress involved in such a legendary franchise as The Godfather. We could hardly feel any empathy when her character met her death. That moment was fortunately saved by the presence of Kay and Michael himself, who became hysterical. The Godfather films reveal a sense of world history unfolding around the Corleone family, and sometimes the family's fortunes intersect directly with major historical events. In The Godfather Part II, we encountered the Cuban Revolution. In The Godfather Part III, there is the Vatican banking scandal and the sudden death of Pope John Paul I. The film offers a highly fictionalized version of these events, including the poisoning of Pope John Paul I due to his role in approving the immobilier deal with Michael Corleone. At the end of the film, the Pope dies, and an archbishop is shot dead in Vatican City. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.